Hello friends, welcome. Friends, whoever is watching this video must be holding a mobile phone. And I am 100% sure that he or she must be so frustrated with spam calls that they have stopped receiving all phone calls which is not there in their address book. I typically do so. In the process, you miss out important calls which might be calling you to provide any service, or you have booked a cab, or somebody else who is trying to reach you in emergency. You miss those calls, and that is a problem that we all Indians are facing in India for such a long period of time. Now, both the government, which is the DOT, and the TRAI has been trying to solve this problem for such a long period of time, and we have not been able to solve this. The government of India has brought various directives. Earlier, they tried to do this blockchain. They tried to solve this problem with blockchain. They asked the operators to filter out those calls. None of the measures were successful. Even there was a proposal that we will implement a calling name presentation system. That also was struck down because of the technical difficulties. Now friends, why I am recording this video today? The reason I am recording this video is that yesterday TRAI came out with a directive after meeting all the service provider, and it looks to me that it is a very serious attempt to curtail spam calls. Now, as I am recording this video, there is another spam call in spite of the TRAI's ruling. So let me just go through this ruling. Now, what is this ruling? TRAI met all the operators. You can read this. It is there in the TRAI's website, and I am not going to waste too much time, and I am going to come straight to the point. What TRAI is saying is that TRAI wants the PABX exchanges, which are connected to the exchanges, the main exchanges of the telecom service providers, to block spam calls. And the PABX exchanges are being currently used to make spam calls. And let me explain to you what is going on. Now, before I explain to you the technical issues and what is going on, let me tell you the directive of TRAI, which is pretty important. What TRAI is saying, if any entity misuses its SIP PRA lines, which is basically the lines which have been obtained by a PABX exchange, which is offering services to their business customer for making spam calls, all telecom resources of the entity shall be disconnected by the telecom service provider, and the entity shall be blacklisted by it. Okay, and not only that, all other TSPs will be informed about this blacklisting, and they will also stop offering any resources to that company which has enabled or allowed its lines to be misused for making spam calls. And no new telecom resources may be allocated to this TSP, which is the PABX exchange operator, for the period of 2 years. Now, this is a very good directive, which looks from apparently it looks like that it will prevent spam calling. Now, before I talk about the opportunities and the challenges for implementation, let me just first try to cut the clutter about why this PRAI lines became an issue. Now you all know that marketing calls and spam calls are made using private mobile numbers. There is a series which the government of India has already laid out for making marketing call, which is 140, right? So that series is supposed to be used for making marketing call, but there is a DND register which TRAI has implemented, and if you register for the DND register, then there is a regulation which says that you are not supposed to receive any marketing call. But what has happened is that they forget about this 140 series, and they started making call. Every marketeer and spammer is making call using a conventional mobile number, which is a private number. You might have already experienced it. Now, in order to curtail this, what the government of India did, they came out with a telecom bill and said that nobody can have SIM more than 9 in his lifetime. If anybody is held possessing a SIM more than 9 in his lifetime, he will be penalized. So you can't have more number of SIMs, so you cannot basically be making calls using different numbers. That is one way of curtailing this problem. But they figured out another way. The spammers figured out another way. What they did was they started using the PRAI lines for making and kind of circumventing this bottleneck of 9 SIMs. And let me explain what this is all about. For that, I have to show you a diagram. So let me just show you the diagram, what is going on and why this directive was issued. Now in this diagram you will see that there is a mobile switch here. There is a mobile switch which is connected to the internet. This is the internet cloud, right? And there are certain lines which are being leased to the PABX exchange operator. What is this PABX exchange operator doing? It is offering to its PABX customer a mechanism of dialing to the users. These are the users, right? So that there is an integrated service offering, and it is clubbed with various value added services, and I am not going to get into that. Everybody knows about what services a PABX customer gets. Now, since the PABX customer has also a facility of choosing a CLI, which is called calling line identification number, this is the number which gets displayed on this mobile. So you can get a facility to choose a particular CLI, and this CLI will get transmitted in these lease line which are connected to the switch, and the switch will in turn transmit this to the mobile numbers so that you can get a display of a particular CLI of a choice. Now, because the CLI can be changed by the PABX customer on a regular basis, on a call basis, therefore they are able to circumvent, the PABX customer, they are able to circumvent this restriction of 9 SIMs, and they continue to make calls using different numbers, which appears to be completely different compared to what the intent was. That intent was that you should not be making calls using robocalls or kind of machine programmed calls. Those calls can be very easily configured using a PABX number, right? PABX switch. And that is where the problem is, and therefore this directive has been issued by TRAI saying that because this is being used as a mechanism to do spamming, therefore the responsibility lies with the PABX operator not to allow misuse of their lines, and if any PABX operator is seen offering services or allowing his customer to use their lines for spamming, he will be blacklisted. Okay, so that's the gist of this particular problem. Now, before I continue to the discussion, and I will talk about the root of this problem and why this problem cannot be solved by just blocking the PABX operators, I would like to basically state that even this directive is not sufficient. Why this directive is not sufficient? Because you really cannot define what spam call is. You are not recording your voice calls, and the PABX operator who is selling their services, how does it know which customer is going to make spam calls? He should not be held responsible. Another spam call as I'm recording after the TRAI directive. So how is going to be responsible for which customer is making spam calls? So in that way, the mobile operator should also be responsible. Why are you passing the buck to the PABX operator that he should be held responsible and he should be blacklisted? Because his customer is responsible, not the operator. Now he is selling his services to various customers, and if customer is misusing it, then there could be some mechanism to filter out. So there should be some specific directive to filter out those customers who are making spam calls, then to block the PABX operator for 2 years and not allowing him to get any resources. So this is fundamentally wrong, which I believe that directive is not business friendly. Okay, it is also not going to basically kill innovation. So it's not going to work. Now let me just take you through the fundamental issue that we are facing in our network and why spamming is not going to get solved very easily. Let me explain that problem. The problem is, before I explain this, I will like to explain to you the call flow. You have to understand the call flow, then only you will understand, because nothing can be explained in trivial terms unless the technical issue is understood in a simple way as possible. You don't have to be an engineer, neither you have to be an expert IT executives in order to understand this. You simply have to know how typically logic works. So that is exactly what I'm going to talk. Now let's talk about the scenario. What is the scenario? There are switches here. See, switch number A. Switch, you understand? Switch is a mechanism for connecting a calling party to a call party. That's all. It just enables the connection. So we have a switch here, and then we have this is basically the switch which is generating the call, and this is the switch which is terminating the call to the called party. So calling party is connected to this switch, and then through the trunk automatic exchange, because you need to have a trunk exchange in between, the call is getting routed to the called party. Now, how do you establish a connection? The connection between the call party and the calling party, the calling party and the call party is established first by sending a signal, because you need to basically tell the switch to which you are connected that I want this call party to be connected to me so that I can talk to him or her. So you have to send a signaling information. The signaling information will go to switch number A, and then it is going to get transmitted to the tax. The tax is going to transmit the signaling to switch number B, which will understand that Mr. So-and-so with number so-and-so is trying to reach this guy. And this guy will have a telephone number through which this guy is going to be identified. So he will connect to this guy and tell this guy that, look, calling party with so-and-so number is trying to reach you. So the number will get displayed in the call party's mobile number. Once he picks up, the voice call is going to get connect. The connection between the call party and the calling party will be established, and the call will materialize, and he can talk and then finally disconnect. This is the way the whole call flow will occur. There is nothing technical about it. Now here is the issue. The issue is the following. For that I have to go to the next chart, and this chart might look a little overwhelming, but don't worry. It is very simple after you have gone through the earlier two charts. Now what is this chart? This chart is telling you that the same two charts are just overlapped with each other. So we have two switches. One is the calling party switch, another is the one is the call party switch, another is the calling party switch, and then we have the internet in between. Then we have the trunk switch, then we have the international gateway, and then we have open internet, right? It's simple. There is a mobile network. This is a mobile network which is connected also to the open internet. As simple as that. You don't have to worry about anything other than this. The mobile switching network is also connected to the internet, and the user, which can be a PABX user or a mobile user, he or she also has an option to connect to the switch directly or to the mobile internet, which means that a call between this guy and this guy can flow directly through the internet, just like you make a WhatsApp call, or through the mobile network. Simple. Similarly, the PABX, which is in between, the people who are trying to use the PABX services can reach the PABX directly through a dedicated line or through the open internet, and then their services will be used. Now, here is the main point of discussion. The point is that when you are connecting, right, through the internet point to point, then you don't have to worry about these mobile switches. It's a simple one connection through the internet to the other connection, which is a WhatsApp call. You may use the WhatsApp mobile number as an identification, or you can use anything else as an identification. That mobile number that shows up on your display, it is just an identifier, nothing else. It is not used to switch the call. You can switch the call through an underlying identifier, which can be an email ID or whatever. It does not matter. Mobile number is just used for convenience. So the call flows through the open internet, through the other party. The mobile network is not being used. Now, when you are using the mobile network, then comes the problem. The problem is that, let's say I, as a mobile customer, is trying to call the other party which is connected to the other switch. This is what we showed in the earlier chart. Now what I will do, I will request this switch to which I am connected to initiate the call. Now this switch can be a next generation switch, or the latest switch, or an old switch. So it has a mechanism to signal to the trunk switch, which will finally transmit the signal to the switch where the called party is located. So this can happen by a term called SS7 and SIP. Now you don't have to get into the details of SS7 and SIP. That is not the purpose of this call. The problem is that if you are using SS7, then these switches are typically 2G or 3G switches. They are not latest generation switches like 4G and 5G, because 4G and 5G switches are typically IP switches, and therefore they use SIP signaling. SS7 signaling are used in legacy switches, which is 2G and 3G. Now what happens is that when you are using SS7 signaling, then the information of the calling party, which is the CLI, which gets transmitted over this signaling link, so that the terminating switch on which the call party is located knows that this is the call party to which I am going to reach, and the calling party information, the CLI information, also gets transmitted to this terminating switch. That information is transmitted in an unprotected manner, means it is not encrypted, it is transmitted within this switch in an unprotected manner, non-encrypted manner, which means that the path of the signal, that is the CLI, the calling party, calling line identification number, is not bounded with the party, this mobile number, this party who is making the call. He can spoof a CLI of a different number. That he can do, he or she can do, and I will explain to you how it can do. And this terminating switch will not be able to identify whether the call which got originated, the signaling path which got originated, or the request which came from this mobile is the person who made the request, or some other person in the internet who tried to replicate this person and was able to snoop in and then tamper with the CLI and made the request. So what happens is that the information of CLI which gets displayed here on the mobile number of this calling party number, and if he is getting snooped or he is getting unnecessarily disturbed, he or she will not know whether if the CLI which is getting displayed in this mobile number is the CLI from which the mobile phone, the genuine mobile phone, is the CLI from which the call has originated. You understand? So let's say this is the mobile number on which the call has originated, and this mobile phone has got a certain number. He or she can feign a different number other than the number that is embedded into this device or assigned to this device, and the CLI that can display it in this number can be a completely different CLI altogether. Now, how this is possible? This is possible by two ways. One is the PABX, which I already explained to you. Another is, rather than getting connected to the landline or the mobile switch, which can identify the number, because whenever you are getting connected to the mobile switch, without you having a number, the call will not get respected. So instead of connecting to this switch, what you do, you as a mobile customer, you don't connect to this switch. You go directly to the internet. You go to the internet, and through the internet, what you do, you get out of the internet and you get to a service, this service, which will enable you the facility of snooping. It can be located domestically or it can be located internationally somewhere else. So now the call is no longer being originating from this mobile. It is originating from somewhere else. It can be in an international gateway. And from there it will enter. As if that when you make the call, you go through the internet, you go out, go to somewhere else, some other country, where laws are not perfect, there are services which are provided, and you enter the system through the trunk exchange internationally with the CLI, which will appear as if that it is a local CLI of Indian mobile phone, some Indian mobile phone which is calling, but you will not know it is coming from the international gateway, because the mobile numbers are not tagged with information that it came from the international gateway, or if there is some facility available which will allow you to convert the CLI and somehow connect to the switch, some switch here. Let's say if it is like the PABX exchange or some exchange, some device which can do the translation in between, then you will be able to do snooping very easily without you getting identified. You got it? So that is the problem that you are going to face. So all this solution is not a foolproof solution, because these services are available. Go and search the internet. You will find that there are so many services which are available, which allows you to snoop, and they provide commercial services for allowing you to snoop and change the CLI. Some services are done deliberately for the purpose of privacy. Now, if you are in a situation like that, you tell me whatever you do is not going to solve the problem. Then what is the solution? The solution is simple. Actually, it is not simple. It has to be done on a foundational basis. Now, what is the solution? The solution is that all switches, the switches that you have, which actually have the capability to signal or connect the call using a signaling, should have the capability to bind the signaling of the calling party in such a way that that binding cannot be tampered with. Tampered with means that when you are making a call, the calling party will not be able to snoop or change the CLI in between, because this switch will ensure that this signaling that is flowing from this switch to the trunk switch and then to the landline mobile switch is completely encrypted. That CLI of this mobile number is completely encrypted, so no PABX in between will be able to read the CLI information. They will not be able to read the CLI information unless and until that reaches the terminating switch from where the call party is located. He is authorized to break the encryption and then convert the call and establish the voice path. And that is going to make sure that the fidelity of the call, which got originated from a particular point, is the point from which the called party actually made the call, not from any other location by snooping. Right? So this is going to be required in order to establish fidelity in the network, so that the called party is uniquely identified without anybody able to tamper the information in between. Now, friends, you might be asking this question: if that is possible, then why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we having a mechanism by which we encrypt the CLI information and the call party information so that nobody can tamper this information in between? The reason we are not able to do this is because of the legacy switches that we have in our network. Because actually the problem is of the weakest link. If the trunk exchange is a legacy exchange and it doesn't have the capability to carry SIP signaling, then you have to fall back on SS7. You cannot do anything, and then your encryption will get broken in between. You cannot do anything. Similarly, if the call is coming from international gateway which does not have SIP signaling, it is using SS7 signaling, then your encryption will get broken. What can you do? Nothing, right? So you will not be able to establish an end-to-end encryption. We have, and I'll show you, the problem that we are having in India is, sorry, not this. There is this. If you look at this particular document, you will find that how many BTSs that we have, 2G BTSs and 3G BTSs we have as on 31st March 2023. You already have 5 lakh 2G BTSs and around how many it is? It is 1.32 lakhs of 3G BTSs, 5 lakh of 2G BTSs, and 1, 2, 3. So out of the 25, so this number is now 28. So this number has slightly increased or decreased. So you can basically clearly see that around 6 lakh BTSs out of the 28 lakh BTSs in the country is already 3. So we do not have the capability to do end-to-end encryption. So we have to gun towards that. We have to get rid of all these switches and establish a network which has foolproof capability to do end-to-end encryption. Now you may ask another question: what purpose does it solve? Even if we are able to maintain end-to-end fidelity of the call, this may be a spammer, right? What purpose does it solve? Even if you identify that this is the guy who is calling, the purpose that it solves is that you can penalize the right person instead of penalizing somebody else. Because if this guy if somebody snoops in between and changes the CLI, and this guy complains, the call party complains and say that, oh, by the way, I have been, unnecessary calls are coming from this particular number and I have been looted or cheated or something like that, who you are going to penalize? So you can actually identify the person who is calling, and then you can empower the customer who is receiving the call by classifying the call in various category: A category, B category, C category. For example, let me give you an example. Let's say if somebody is snooping using some service which is internationally located somewhere and entering the Indian telecom network to the international gateway by using a 98 number, which is a private number. How will you know this number originated from the trunk exchange or from some other exchange inside the country? How will you know that? So you will not know. The trustworthy of the call is going to be questioned. So if the call originated from somebody somewhere inside, the trustworthiness of the call is greater than the call originating from an international gateway with Indian CLI. So if the mobile operators are able to tag these calls which are originating from the international gateway, we having an Indian mobile number saying that look, it came from international gateway, be careful about this call, though it has an Indian CLI, please don't trust this call, don't pick up this call, it can be a snooping call. Will it not empower the consumer and enable him to make a better judgment? You got it? So in the end of the story, see, I like to cut this short. I'm saying that this problem is not going to be solved by just blocking and issuing directions. You need to make fundamental changes in your network so that you get rid of SS7 signaling switches and get converted yourself into SIP-based signaling, which is easily possible today. Everybody is migrating to 4G. Everybody is migrating to 5G. Ultimately, you have to take down your 3G and 2G network and remove all these trunk switches. So this is so you have to know what is the long-term perspective that you have to look towards. And you have to create some kind of tagging mechanism on the call. And this is exactly what is being implemented in US. Because US also tried everything and they failed, and then they basically implement a system which exactly what I am describing right now. Right? It's called stir-shaken system. You can just do browsing in the internet and you will find out what US has implemented. And that will establish or ensure that the trust of a call which is coming to you can be identified whether the call is from a customer who says that he is what he is, or from somewhere else which is coming as if that it originated from somewhere else in the country, or from a location where the identity of the customer cannot be identified, means it is coming from a 2G switch or a 3G switch. So friends, hope I am clear with what I basically wanted to say. You probably have understood what the real issue is and how we can resolve the problem. Blocking and penalizing, you may end up penalizing somebody else who probably may not have caused the problem. So this is not the way, and why PABX operators should be penalized, because some of their customers have been doing all these things. He will get away, the customer will run away, the PBX operator will lose his business. So that is not the solution. Anyway, friends, I hope that you understood. I probably think that I have been able to explain this issue in as much simple terms as possible. And in case if you have any question, let me know in the comment section, and I'll come back to you with a new video next time on a new topic. Thank you very much for your time.